The Zephyrian battle fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. 200 ships spread across the dark void, their black metal hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of war technology, built for one purpose only, to conquer and destroy. Admiral Kethmor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dark Spear. His 4 yellow eyes scanned the star charts displayed before him. This was his 18th campaign of conquest. 17 times before, he had led fleets like this one to victory. 17 alien worlds now served the Zephyrian Empire. Today would make it 18. The target was a small system with a yellow star. The aliens called it Sol. Intelligence reports said the creatures living there called themselves humans. They were new to space travel, barely able to move between their own planets. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were weak. It should be an easy victory. "Admiral," called Commander Vextel from his station. His 6 arms moved quickly over the control panels. "We are approaching the outer edge of the target system. Sensors are beginning their sweep." Kethmor nodded. This was always his favorite part. The moment when the enemy first realized they were doomed. Most species panicked when they saw a Zephyrian war fleet. Some tried to run, some tried to hide. A few tried to fight. None had ever succeeded. The Zephyrians had perfected the art of conquest over 1,000 years. They studied their enemies carefully. They learned their weaknesses. They struck without mercy. The galaxy had learned to fear the sight of Zephyrian ships. "Sir," Vextel's voice carried a note of confusion, "I am detecting something strange." "What is it?" Kethmor moved closer to the sensor display. "There's a single ship out there. It appears to be waiting for us." Kethmor's eyes widened. In all his years of warfare, no enemy had ever sent just one ship to meet an invasion fleet. It made no sense. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. There, hanging in the darkness of space, was a small vessel. It was maybe 1/10 the size of a Zephyrian destroyer. Its hull was gray metal with strange markings painted on the sides. It looked crude compared to their sleek warships. "What are they doing?" asked Vextel. "I have no idea," Kethmor replied. "Scan the ship. I want to know everything about it." The sensors went to work. Data flowed across the screens. The human ship was built from simple metal alloys. Its power source was some kind of fusion reactor. Its weapons were basic projectile launchers and energy beams. Everything about it seemed primitive. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the ship is sending us a message, and Sir ... They are speaking our language." Kethmor felt his stomach tighten. How did these humans know Zephyrian? Put it on screen. The image changed to show the inside of the human ship. A strange creature stood in the center of what looked like their command bridge. It walked on 2 legs and had only 2 arms. Its skin was a pale pink color. Hair grew only on the top of its head. Most disturbing of all, it had only 2 eyes, both facing forward like a predator. When the creature spoke, its voice was calm and steady. "Greetings, Zephyrian fleet. I am Captain Sarah Chun of the Terran vessel Defiant. You are entering human space without permission. Please tell us why you are here." The bridge fell silent. Kethmor stared at the human captain. She showed no fear, no panic, no desperate pleading for mercy. She spoke as if she was in control of the situation. "Open a channel," Kethmor ordered. "Let me speak to this creature." The communication link activated. Kethmor's image now appeared on the human ship's screens. He drew himself up to his full height using his most commanding voice. "I am Admiral Kethmor of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will surrender to our rule or be destroyed. This is not a request. It is an order." The human captain did not move. Her face showed no emotion. "I see, and how many other species have you given this same choice?" 17 civilizations have learned to bow before Zephyrian power. You will be the 18th. Captain Chen tilted her head slightly. It was a gesture that somehow made Kethmor uncomfortable. "I do not think you understand what you are dealing with, Admiral. We are humans. We do not bow to anyone." Something about the way she said it made Kethmor pause. In his experience, weaker species either begged for mercy or tried to sound tough when they were really scared. This human did neither. She spoke with quiet confidence, as if she knew something he did not. You command one small ship against my entire fleet, Kethmer continued. Your weapons are weak. Your armor is thin, your numbers are pathetic. Tell me why you think you can resist us, the human captain smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something dangerous. Because, Admiral, you have never fought humans before. We have an old saying on our world, never corner a wounded animal. You have just cornered 7 billion humans. She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. I'm going to give you one chance to leave. Turn your fleet around and go back. Where you came from, leave our space and never return. This is the only warning you will get. The communication link went dead. The bridge fell silent again. Kethmer stared at the dark screen, trying to understand what had just happened. No primitive species had ever spoken to him like that. No enemy had ever been so calm in the face of certain defeat. Sir, his tactical officer spoke up, should we begin the attack? No, Kethmer said slowly. Something is wrong here. No species. Sends one ship to threaten an invasion fleet. Begin deep scans of the system. I want to know what we are really facing. Sir, should we not just destroy the human ship and proceed? Kethmer considered this. It would be the normal procedure. But something about this situation felt different. The human captain had been too confident. Too calm, there had to be more. To this, no, scan first, then we decide. The fleet sensors reached deeper into the Sol system. What they found made every officer on the bridge go silent. The system was not defenseless. Far from it. Hidden weapons platforms filled the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. Each one was the size of a small warship. Energy readings showed they packed enough firepower to damage even Zephyrian cruisers. The 3rd planet, Earth, was surrounded by massive space stations. These were not simple outposts. They were fortress stations, each one armed with weapons that could threaten capital ships, but it was the outer system that truly shocked them. Huge structures hung in space near the gas giant planets. They were not ships or stations, they were factories. Manufacturing plants the size of moons, all working at full capacity. What are they building? Vextel whispered. The answer came soon enough. New contacts began appearing on the sensors. Ships, lots of ships. They were emerging from hiding places throughout the system. Dozens became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. Each new ship that appeared was larger than the last. Their energy signatures were massive. Their armor was thick. Their weapons were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Sir, the communications officer said in a shaky voice, we are receiving transmissions from all over the fleet. Every ship is reporting the same thing. Human vessels are appearing everywhere. The tactical display updated in real time. Red dots, marking enemy ships, spread across the screen like a disease. Soon there were more red dots than blue ones. Then twice as many. Then 10 times as many. Captain Chin's face appeared on the screen again, but now she was not alone. The bridge behind her showed dozens of other humans, all working at control. Stations, all calm already. Admiral Kethmer, she said, her voice still steady. I told you that you had never fought humans before. Let me explain what makes us different from all the other species you have conquered. The image split to show the human ship Defiant, but now it was not alone. Massive human warships flanked it on both sides. Ships that dwarfed even Zephyrian battlecruisers. Every species you have defeated developed space travel for exploration, for trade, for peaceful expansion. We developed it for war. Kethmer felt his breathing become difficult. This is impossible. Our intelligence said you were primitives. Your intelligence was 50 years out of date, Chun replied. We have been watching your empire expand for half a century. We studied your ships. We learned your tactics. We discovered your weaknesses. We prepared for this moment. The main screen shifted to show images from across the Sol system. Human ships were everywhere. Not just warships, but massive carriers launching fighters by the thousands. Support. Vessels the size of cities. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets. You see, Admiral, we humans learned something long ago. If you want peace, you must prepare for war. We have been preparing for this war since the day we learned your empire existed. This cannot be real, Kethmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. Oh, it is very real, Captain Chun assured him. You wanted to add humanity to your collection of conquered species. Instead, you found something else. You found the species that evolution created to destroy species like yours. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Human ships were moving into attack positions. The hunters had become the hunted. We do not fight wars. Like other species, Admiral, Chun continued, other species fight to defend their homes. We fight to eliminate threats permanently. When we are done with your fleet, we will know everything about your technology, everything about your tactics, everything about your weaknesses. A new contact appeared on the sensors. Something massive was emerging from behind Earth's moon. It was a ship, but calling it a ship seemed inadequate. It was a mobile fortress, bristling with enough weapons to level a continent. That is our flagship, the Ragnarok, Chun explained. We built it for this exact purpose. It carries enough firepower to destroy your entire fleet. We have 11 more just like it. Kethmore's legs went weak. The greatest war fleet in Zephyrian history was outnumbered, outgunned, and completely surrounded. They had walked into a trap 50 years in the making. You have two choices, Admiral, Captain Chun said. You can surrender and be taken as prisoners of war, or you can fight and die. But understand this, no matter what you choose, your empire will learn what happens when someone threatens humanity. The communication link closed, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in stunned silence. Outside, human ships moved like sharks circling wounded prey. The invasion fleet that had conquered 17 worlds was about to become the prey. Admiral Kethmore looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For the first time in his long military career, he saw fear in their eyes. Real, honest terror. They had not found a primitive species to conquer. They had found humanity, and humanity was ready for war. Admiral Kethmore stared at the tactical display with growing horror. The red dots representing human ships continued to multiply across his screens. What had started as empty space was now filled with an armada that dwarfed his own fleet. His officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to count the enemy vessels, but the numbers kept climbing. Sir, Commander Vextal reported, his voice shaking. Final count shows over 3,000 human ships. And sir, they are still appearing. 3,000 ships. Kethmore had brought 200 of the finest warships in the Zephyrian Empire. Ships that had never known defeat. Ships that had conquered 17 civilizations. Now they faced odds of 15-1 against an enemy they knew nothing about. How is this possible? Whispered the tactical officer. Our scouts reported a primitive species, single planet, basic technology. Captain Chin's image appeared on the main screen again. Behind her, the bridge of the human ship buzzed with activity. Humans moved with calm efficiency, preparing for battle with the same casual attitude they might use to prepare dinner. Admiral, Chun said, her voice still maddeningly calm. I can see the confusion on your face. Let me explain how we managed to surprise you so completely. The screen split to show images of human space, but it was not what the Zephyrians had expected. Instead of a single world with primitive colonies, they saw a vast network of fortified systems. Massive space stations orbited every planet. Asteroid belts had been turned into weapons platforms. Even the moons bristled with defensive installations. 50 years ago, our deep space sensors detected your empire, Chun continued. We watched as you conquered the Altarians. We studied how you destroyed the Centauri Republic. We learned from every species you defeated. New images flashed across the screen. Human factories working around the clock. Shipyards the size of Small planets churning out warships. Entire worlds dedicated to weapons production. We realized that first contact with your empire would not be peaceful. So we prepared. Every human colony became a fortress. Every human ship became a weapon of war. Every human citizen became a soldier. Kethmore felt sick. The Zephyrian Empire prided itself on intelligence gathering. How had they missed preparations on this scale? Your spies were very good, Chun said, as if reading his thoughts. They reported exactly what we wanted them to see. A peaceful species focused on exploration and trade. A single world with small colonies, primitive weapons and defenses. The image changed to show human facilities hidden inside asteroids. Entire fleets concealed within gas giant atmospheres. Weapons platforms disguised as research stations. We have been fighting wars for 3,000 years, Admiral. We know how to hide our true strength. We know how to make our enemies see only what we want them to see. A new voice spoke from somewhere off-screen on the human bridge. Captain, all ships report ready for combat. Awaiting your orders. Captain Chin nodded. Thank you, Commander. Hold position for now. She turned back to face the Zephyrian Admiral. You have about 30 seconds to make a decision, Admiral. Surrender or fight. But know this, if you choose to fight, none of your ships will leave this system. Kethmar's mind raced. His training said to fight. A Zephyrian Admiral never surrendered, but his experience said to run. The tactical situation was hopeless. 3,000 enemy ships against 200, and the humans had chosen the battlefield. They knew every hiding spot, every weapons platform, every advantage. Sir, his weapons. Officer called out. Multiple human ships are locking targeting systems on us. Energy readings are off the charts. Through the viewports, Kethmar could see human ships moving into position. They moved with perfect coordination like a school of fish or a flock of birds. No wasted motion, no confusion. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. How long have you been planning this battle? Kethmar asked. Planning? We have been planning this for 50 years, Chun replied. But we have been preparing for war much longer than that. Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We perfected the art of killing long before we reached the stars. The screen showed images from human history. Massive armies clashing on ancient battlefields. Cities burning under aerial bombardment. Weapons that could destroy entire continents. Wars that had consumed their entire planet for decades at a time. Other species developed space travel to explore the universe. We developed it to escape from the hell we had created on our own world. But we brought our knowledge of war with U.S. More human ships appeared on the sensors. These were different from the others, larger, more heavily armed. Their energy signatures were enormous. Those are our dreadnoughts, Chun explained. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a moon. We built them specifically to fight species like yours. Species that think conquest is easy. Kethmar watched as 12 massive human warships took positions around his fleet. Each one was larger than his flagship. Each one radiated power that made his sensors scream warnings. You still have time to surrender, Chun offered. Your crews will be treated according to the rules of war. They will be fed, housed, and cared for until this conflict is over. And what happens to the Zephyrian Empire? Kethmar asked. Chun's expression hardened. That depends on how smart your leaders are. If they choose to continue this war, we will end it permanently. If they choose peace, we can discuss terms. Warning klaxons began blaring throughout the Zephyrian fleet. The sensor operator's voice cracked as he made his report. Sir, human fighters are launching, thousands of them. Small craft poured from the human capital ships like angry insects from a disturbed hive. Each fighter was tiny compared to the massive warships, but there were so many of them that they darkened space itself. Those fighters are piloted by artificial intelligence, Chun said. Each one is as smart as your best pilot and completely fearless. They never get tired. They never make mistakes. And they never retreat. The human fighters formed up in perfect formations and began moving toward the Zephyrian fleet. Their engines left trails of light in the darkness, creating patterns that were almost beautiful to watch. "Last chance, Admiral," Chun said. "Surrender now or watch your fleet die." Kethmer closed his eyes. Everything he had been taught said to fight. A Zephyrian warrior never gave up. But everything he could see said that fighting would be suicide. He opened his communication channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Kethmer. Stand down all weapons. Do not engage the humans. That is a direct order." Angry voices immediately filled the communication channels. His captains could not believe what they were hearing. Some demanded clarification. Others asked if the Admiral had been captured. "Sir," Commander Vextel said quietly, "the crew wants to fight. They think surrender is cowardice." "The crew has never seen anything like this," Kethmer replied. "Look at the tactical display. Look at the odds. Fighting now would not be brave. It would be murder." Captain Chien's image nodded approvingly. "A wise decision, Admiral. You have just saved thousands of lives. What happens now?" Kethmer asked. "Now you will power down your weapons and shields. My boarding parties will take control of your ships. Your crews will be transferred to prison facilities where they will be safe and comfortable. And then we wait to see what your empire decides to do next." The process of surrender took several hours. Human boarding craft docked with each Zephyrian ship. Teams of human soldiers armed with weapons that looked far more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal took control of the bridges and engineering sections. Kethmer watched as his proud fleet was systematically captured without a single shot being fired. The humans worked with efficient professionalism. They treated the Zephyrian crews with respect. Providing food and medical care as needed, a human officer appeared on his bridge. She was smaller than Captain Chun, with dark skin and short black hair. Her uniform was simple but well made. Her weapons looked powerful but were kept holstered. "Admiral Kethmer, I am Commander Torres of the Human Space Force. I will be taking command of your vessel." "I understand," Kethmer replied. "My crew will cooperate fully. Thank you. That will make this easier for everyone." Torres turned to address the entire Zephyrian bridge crew. "You are now prisoners of war under human authority. You will be treated fairly and according to our laws. Anyone who cooperates will be housed comfortably. Anyone who causes trouble will be confined but not harmed." One of Kethmer's younger officers stepped forward. "What gives you the right to capture us?" "We are warriors of the Zephyrian Empire." Commander Torres looked at him calmly. "You entered our space with a military fleet and declared your intention to conquer us. That gives us every right to defend ourselves. But we are the superior species. We have conquered 17 worlds," Torres smiled sadly. "You conquered 17 species that were not prepared for war. You found one that was. The result speaks for itself." She gestured toward the viewports. Outside, human ships surrounded the captured Zephyrian fleet like guards escorting prisoners. The massive human dreadnoughts hung in space like sleeping giants, ready to wake if needed. "Your empire made a mistake," Torres continued. "You assumed that all species would react to invasion the same way. You thought that because others surrendered or fled, we would do the same. But you are just one species," the young officer protested. "We are an empire spanning dozens of star systems. And we are a species that has been preparing for this war since before your empire was born," Torres replied. "Size does not always determine the outcome of a battle. Preparation does. Training does. The will to fight does." She turned back to Admiral Kethmer. "Your fleet will be escorted to a detention facility in our outer system. Your crews will be safe there. As for you, Admiral, you will be coming with me." "Where?" "To Earth. Our leaders want to speak with you. They want to understand your empire's intentions. More importantly, they want you to understand ours." As the Zephyrian admiral was led away, Commander Vextel looked out at the human fleet. Thousands of ships filled the space around them. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering. Each one was crewed by beings who had turned warfare into an art form. For the first time in his life, Vextel understood what it meant to face A superior enemy, the Zephyrians had always been the hunters. Now they were the prey. In the distance, more human ships continued to appear. Reinforcements arriving from hidden bases throughout the system. The message was clear. This was not just a defense fleet. This was a demonstration of power. A warning to any other empire that might be watching. Humanity was ready for war. And they were very, very good at it. Admiral Kethmer sat in the passenger compartment of the human transport ship, watching Earth grow larger through the small viewport. He had seen many worlds during his military career, but this one was different. Instead of the peaceful blue and green planet his intelligence reports had described, he saw a fortress world. Massive orbital stations surrounded the planet like a metal ring. Each station was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Smaller platforms moved between them in complex patterns, creating an impenetrable barrier around the human homeworld. "Impressive, is it not?" asked Commander Torres, who sat across from him. She had remained professional and courteous during the 3-day journey from the battle site. "How many stations are there?" Kethmer asked. "Around Earth?" "About 2,000. Each one can destroy a fleet the size of yours." Kethmer felt his stomach tighten. 2,000 weapon platforms, each capable of destroying his entire armada. The scale of human military preparation was beyond anything he had imagined. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked. "Because your empire needs to understand what they are facing," Torres replied. "You are not just dealing with another species. You are dealing with a species that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war." The transport ship passed through several layers of defenses. At each checkpoint, human patrol craft escorted them, their weapons trained on the transport. Despite the fact that it carried their own people, nothing was left to chance. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, Kethmer saw more evidence of human military thinking. The cities below were not just population centers. They were fortresses. Every building seemed designed to withstand attack. Every street layout looked like it had been planned by military engineers. "Your cities look like military bases," he observed. "They are," Torres confirmed. "Every human settlement is designed to be defended. Every citizen knows how to fight. We learned long ago that there is no such thing as a safe place in war." The transport landed at a facility that looked more like a fortress than a spaceport. Walls stretched as far as Kethmer could see, topped with weapon turrets and sensor arrays. Guards in powered armor patrolled the perimeter, their weapons ready. For instant use. Inside the facility, Kethmer was taken to a conference room. The room was simple but comfortable, with chairs arranged around a large table. Windows looked out onto a courtyard where human soldiers practiced combat drills with fluid precision. 3 humans were waiting for him. The first was an elderly man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple uniform with many decorations. The second was a middle-aged woman with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. She wore civilian clothes but carried herself like a soldier. The third was a younger man with dark skin and quick movements. His uniform marked him as some kind of technical specialist. "Admiral Kethmer," the elderly man said, standing up. "I am General Harrison, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. This is Director Walsh of Human Intelligence and Dr. Kim, our expert on alien technology." Kethmer remained standing. "I am your prisoner. What do you want from me?" "Please sit," General Harrison said, gesturing to a chair. "We want to talk, nothing more. About what?" "About your empire. About your intentions. About what happens next." Kethmer sat down carefully. The chair was designed for human proportions but was surprisingly comfortable. "I assume you want military intelligence, ship designs, troop strengths, battle plans?" "Director." Walsh leaned forward. "We already have all of that information, Admiral. We have been studying your empire for 50 years. We know more about your military capabilities than most of your own officers. Then what do you want?" "We want to understand." "Why?" General Harrison said. "Why does your empire conquer other species? What drives you to expand through violence?" Kethmer was confused by the question. "We are strong, they are weak. It is the natural order. Natural order? Dr. Kim spoke for the first time. Ken, you explain what you mean by that? Strong species dominate weak species. It has always been this way. The Zephyrian Empire brings order to chaos. We unite the galaxy under one rule. The three humans exchanged glances. Director Walsh made notes on a small device. General Harrison looked sad. Admiral, the general said slowly, has it ever occurred to you that other species might not want to be united under your rule? What they want does not matter. What matters is what is best for the galaxy. And you believe Zephyrian rule is what is best? Of course. We are the most advanced species. We have the strongest military. We have the most experience in governing multiple worlds. Dr. Kim leaned back in his chair. That is an interesting perspective. Tell me, Admiral, what happens to species that resist your rule? They are eliminated. Resistance to the natural order must be removed. Eliminated, you mean killed. If necessary, yes. The room fell silent. General Harrison rubbed his forehead with one hand. Director Walsh stopped taking notes and stared at Kethmer. Dr. Kim shook his head slowly. Admiral, General Harrison said finally, do you understand why we fought you? Because you were too primitive to understand the benefits of joining our empire. No, the general said firmly. We fought you because you came to our home with weapons and threatened to kill us if we did not submit. Any species would fight under those circumstances. Primitive species fight. Advanced species recognize superior strength and submit. Director? Walsh stood up and walked to the window. Admiral, let me show you something that might help you understand. She activated a wall display that showed images from across the galaxy. Kethmer recognized some of the worlds his empire had conquered, but these images were different from the reports he had seen. These are current images from your conquered worlds, Walsh explained. What do you see? Kethmer studied the pictures. He saw cities under Zephyrian control. Alien populations going about their daily lives under the watchful eyes of occupation forces. Everything looked orderly and efficient. I see successful integration into the empire, he said. Look closer, Walsh said. The images zoomed in to show individual faces. Alien beings walking through the streets of their own cities. Their expressions were easy to read, even across species barriers: fear, sadness, resignation. They are not happy, Admiral. They are afraid. They do what you tell them to do because they know what happens if they refuse. Order requires discipline. This is not order, General Harrison said, standing up. This is oppression. You have not created unity. You have created a prison. The strong rule the weak. It is the way of the universe. Dr. Kim activated another display. This one showed images of human history. Battles fought across continents. Cities destroyed by weapons of incredible power. Populations fleeing from advancing armies. We know about the strong ruling the weak, Admiral. We have experience with it. For thousands of years, strong humans ruled over weak humans. Do you know what we learned? Kethmer studied the images. Some showed scenes that reminded him of Zephyrian conquests. Others showed something different. Weak humans fighting back against strong ones, sometimes losing, sometimes winning. What did you learn? He asked, despite himself. We learned that strength without justice is just another form of weakness. Dr. Kim said, we learned that ruling through fear creates enemies, not subjects. We learned that true strength comes from protecting others, not conquering them. That is why we are so good at war, General Harrison added. We have been fighting against oppression for our entire history. We know how to resist. We know how to fight back. We know how to win. Director Walsh returned to her seat. Your empire has conquered 17 species, but you have not faced anything like humanity before. We are not just another species to be added to your collection. We are the species that specializes in defeating empires like yours. You are one species against an empire of dozens of worlds, Kethmer protested. Yes, General Harrison agreed. One species that has been preparing for this war for 50 years. One species that knows every weakness in your military doctrine. One species that has built an entire civilization around the concept of defeating you. The display changed to show human military installations throughout their space. Shipyards that could build 100 warships per day. Training centers where millions of soldiers learned the art of war. Research facilities developing weapons that made Zephyrian technology look primitive. Every human facility you see was built with your empire in mind, Director Walsh explained. Every weapon was designed to fight Zephyrian ships. Every strategy was developed to counter Zephyrian tactics. Every soldier was trained to kill Zephyrian warriors. But why? Kethmar asked. Why prepare for war with us specifically? Because we studied your history, Dr. Kim said. We watched how you operated. We saw the pattern. Conquer the weak. Eliminate the strong. Expand without limit. We knew that eventually you would come for us. So we prepared, General Harrison continued. We turned our entire species into a weapon designed for one purpose, to stop you. Kethmar looked around the room at the three humans. They spoke calmly, almost conversationally, about building their entire civilization around the goal of destroying his empire. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever heard. What happens now? He asked. That depends on your empire, Director Walsh said. If they choose to continue this war, we will finish it permanently. And if they choose peace? Then we can discuss terms, General Harrison said. But understand this, Admiral. The galaxy has changed. Your empire will never again be the strongest military force. That position now belongs to humanity. What terms would you offer? First, immediate withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Second, reparations to the species you have oppressed. Third, complete disarmament of your military forces. Fourth, submission to a galactic council that includes representatives from all free species. Kethmar felt dizzy. You want us to give up everything, our empire, our military, our way of life? We want you to stop being a threat to other species, Dr. Kim said. You can keep your own worlds. You can govern yourselves as you see fit, but you cannot continue to conquer and oppress others. And if we refuse? The three humans looked at each other. General Harrison spoke first. Then we will come to your home worlds with fleets that will blot out the stars. We will dismantle your empire piece by piece. We will free every species you have conquered. And we will make sure that the name Zephyrian becomes a warning that echoes across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The room fell silent again. Kethmar understood now why Captain Chun had been so confident, why the human soldiers moved with such calm efficiency, why their entire civilization seemed designed for war. They were not just defending their home. They were ending an age of galactic oppression. And they were very, very good at it. I need to send a message to my empire, Kethmar said finally. Of course, General Harrison agreed. But remember, Admiral, this is not a negotiation. This is a surrender. The only question is whether your empire surrenders now or after we destroy it. The message transmission chamber on Earth was unlike anything Admiral Kethmar had ever seen. The room was filled with technology that made Zephyrian communications equipment look primitive. Holographic displays showed real-time images of his homeworld, Zephyr Prime. From thousands of light years away, General Harrison stood beside him as technicians prepared the quantum communication link. Remember, Admiral, this is your chance to save your empire. Choose your words carefully. Kethmar nodded, though his hands shook as he activated his personal command codes. Within moments, the familiar face of Supreme Chancellor Vorthak appeared in the hologram. The Chancellor's expression shifted from relief to confusion as he saw the human facility behind his captured admiral. Kethmar, thank the ancestors who are alive. Report on the invasion status immediately. Chancellor, Kethmar began, his voice heavy with defeat. The invasion has failed. The entire fleet has been captured. We were wrong about the humans, completely wrong. Vorthak's 4 eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. You command 200 of our finest warships against a primitive species. They are not primitive, Chancellor. They are the most advanced military force in the galaxy. They have been preparing for war with us for 50 years. The Chancellor's expression hardened. Have they broken you, Kethmar? Are you speaking under torture? General Harrison stepped into view of the transmission. Chancellor Vorthak, I am General Harrison of Human Defense Forces. Admiral Kethmar speaks freely and truthfully. He has been treated with respect and dignity. Vorthak studied the human general with obvious disgust. So this is what defeats Zephyrian warriors? A creature that walks on two legs like a primitive beast? This creature commands a military force that captured your entire invasion fleet without losing a single ship, Harrison replied calmly. Perhaps you should reconsider your assumptions about primitives. Where is the rest of my fleet? Vorthak demanded. Safe, Kethmar answered. The humans have taken them as prisoners of war. The crews are being treated well. Prisoners? Vorthak's voice rose to a shriek. Zephyrian warriors do not become prisoners. They fight to the death. Fighting would have been suicide, Chancellor. You did not see what I saw. Thousands of human ships, weapons beyond our understanding. Defenses that could stop any attack we might mount. General Harrison activated a display that showed the current positions of human fleets throughout their space. The Chancellor's expression grew more horrified as he saw the true scale of human military might. This is what your admiral faced, Harrison explained. 3,000 combat vessels in the Sol system alone. Another 10,000 ships stationed throughout human space. Orbital weapons platforms that could destroy continents. Manufacturing facilities that can build more ships in a month than your empire produces in a year. Vorthak stared at the displays. This cannot be real. Our intelligence reports showed a peaceful species with minimal defenses. Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Harrison said. We have been planning for this confrontation since we first detected. Your empire 50 years ago? 50 years? Vorthak's voice was barely a whisper. We watched you conquer the Altarians. We studied your tactics when you destroyed the Centauri Republic. We learned from every species you defeated and we prepared. Director Walsh joined. Them in front of the transmission? Chancellor, we know everything about your empire. Ship designs, military doctrine, economic systems, political structure. We have spent 5 decades studying you. For 50 years, we have been building our military with one goal, Dr. Kim added, appearing on screen. To defeat the Zephyrian Empire when you inevitably came for us. Vorthak looked at the 3 humans, then back at Admiral Kethmar. What do they want? Kethmar took a deep breath. Complete surrender, Chancellor. Withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Disarmament of our military forces. Reparations to the species we have oppressed. Never! Vorthak slammed his fist on his command console. The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We will send more fleets. We will mobilize the entire Imperial Navy. General Harrison stepped forward. Chancellor, before you make that decision, let me show you something. The display changed to show human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. Not just defensive formations, but invasion fleets heading towards Zephyrian space. While we were talking to your admiral, we were also moving our forces into position, Harrison explained. Right now, human fleets are approaching 17 former Zephyrian colony worlds, not to conquer them, but to liberate them. The images showed massive human task forces dropping out of hyperspace near planets that had been under Zephyrian control for decades. On each world, the same scene was playing out. Zephyrian garrison forces were being surrounded and overwhelmed by human fleets. You are invading our empire? Vorthak gasped. We are ending your empire, Director Walsh corrected. The species you conquered are being freed. The populations you oppressed are being liberated. The threat you represent to galactic peace is being eliminated. On the displays, they could see Zephyrian ships surrendering without firing a shot. The garrison commanders, seeing the overwhelming human forces, chose to save their crews rather than fight hopeless battles. How is this possible? Vorthak demanded. Your ships would have to travel faster than light to reach our world so quickly. Dr. Kim smiled grimly. We have been moving ships into position for months, Chancellor. Hidden bases near your borders. Stealth vessels monitoring your communications. We have been inside your empire for years. This is impossible, Vorthak repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. Admiral Kethmore leaned closer to the transmission device. Chancellor, I have seen their ships. I have seen their weapons. I have seen their soldiers. Everything we believed about warfare, they have surpassed. Everything we thought we knew about military technology, they have made obsolete. They are just one species. One species that has been preparing for war longer than our empire has existed, Kethmore replied. Chancellor, they showed me images of their history. They've been fighting wars for 3,000 years. Not conquest wars like ours, but survival wars. Wars where losing meant extinction, General Harrison nodded. We learned to fight by fighting each other, Chancellor. For millennia, humans battled humans in conflicts that would have destroyed weaker species. We survived by becoming very, very good at war. The display showed scenes from human history. Ancient battles with primitive weapons. Medieval sieges that lasted for years. Modern conflicts with weapons that could level cities. Each image showed the same thing, humans fighting with desperate intensity, driven by the knowledge that defeat meant death. We did not develop space travel to explore the universe, Director Walsh explained. We developed it to escape the wars we had created on our own world. But we brought our knowledge of warfare with us to the stars. And when we detected your empire, we knew what was coming, Dr. Kim added. We had seen this pattern before in our own history. A strong power, conquering weaker ones, growing stronger with each victory, eventually coming for everyone. Chancellor Vorthak stared at the images of human military might. His expression showed the dawning realization that his empire had made a terrible mistake. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Immediate cessation of all hostile actions, General Harrison began. Complete withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Disarmament of your military to defensive levels only. Reparations to the species you have oppressed. Submission to a galactic council that will include representatives from all free species. And if we refuse? Then we will continue our current operations until your empire no longer exists, Harrison said simply. We will free every world you have conquered. We will dismantle every ship in your fleet. We will reduce the Zephyrian Empire to its original borders and ensure it never again threatens galactic peace. You would destroy us completely? If necessary, yes. But we would prefer not to. The Zephyrian people are not evil, Chancellor. Your government is, your military doctrine is, your imperial ambitions are. But your people could live peacefully if they chose to. Director Walsh activated another display. We have been in contact with resistance movements on your conquered worlds, Chancellor. Did you know that every species you defeated has been planning their liberation? They have been waiting for someone strong enough to help them fight back. The images showed alien populations celebrating as human ships arrived. Former slaves throwing off their chains. Conquered peoples reclaiming their freedom. It was happening on world after world throughout the Zephyrian Empire. They welcome us as liberators, Walsh continued, because we are not coming to conquer them, we are coming to free them. Chancellor Vorthak closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he looked older, defeated. How long do I have to decide? 12 hours, General Harrison replied. After that, we assume you have chosen to fight, and we will act accordingly. And what guarantee do I have that you will honor these terms? The same guarantee you gave to the 17 species you conquered, Admiral Kethmore said bitterly. The word of the victor, but General Harrison shook his head. That is not how humans operate, Chancellor. We will honor our agreements because that is who we are. We do not conquer. We do not oppress. We fight only to protect. If you surrender and abide by the terms, your people will be free to govern themselves on their original worlds, Director Walsh added. We will not occupy you. We will not rule you. We will simply ensure that you never again threaten others. 12 hours, Vorthak said finally. I will need to consult with the Imperial Council. 12 hours, Harrison confirmed. Choose wisely, Chancellor. This is the only offer you will receive. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Admiral Kethmer sat heavily in a nearby chair, his entire worldview shattered. Will he surrender? General Harrison asked. I do not know, Kethmer replied honestly. The Council has never faced defeat before. They may choose to fight rather than accept the destruction of everything they have built. Then they will learn what every tyrant eventually learns, Director Walsh said. That power built on oppression is ultimately powerless against those who fight for freedom. Admiral Kethmer looked up at the three humans. If they choose to fight, how long will it take you to defeat us? 6 months, Dr. Kim answered without hesitation. We have been planning this campaign for 50 years. We know exactly how long it will take. And how many will die? General Harrison's expression grew sad. Too many, which is why we hope your Chancellor chooses wisdom over pride. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Not warning alarms, but departure signals. Throughout human space, the greatest military force in galactic history was preparing to move. In 12 hours, they would either accept a Zephyrian surrender, or begin the final campaign that would end the age of galactic tyranny forever. The choice belonged to Chancellor Vorthak. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. Surrender or destruction? Surrender or justice, General Harrison said firmly. We will not allow tyrants to prey on the weak. Chancellor Vorthak closed his eyes and sat back in his throne. The weight of his empire's history pressed down on him, centuries of conquest. Millions of lives lost in wars of expansion. Entire species enslaved or destroyed. I'm curious about one thing, he said without opening his eyes. Why did you wait 50 years? You could have stopped us at any time during our expansion. Why allow us to conquer 17 worlds? The question hung in the air like an accusation. General Harrison exchanged glances with his colleagues before answering. Because we were not ready, he admitted. 50 years ago, we were still learning how to work together as a unified species. We were still building our technology and our military doctrine. We needed time to become strong enough to guarantee victory. So you allowed 17 species to suffer under our rule while you prepared? Yes, Harrison said simply. And that is a burden we will carry forever. But we learned from our own history that fighting before you are ready to win leads to defeat. And defeat would have meant that more species would suffer, not fewer. Director Walsh stepped forward. We made the hardest decision any species can make, Chancellor. We chose to wait until we could save everyone instead of trying to save some and failing. And now you can save everyone? Now we can end the age of galactic conquest forever, Dr. Kim said. Your empire was the strongest military force in the galaxy. If we can defeat you, no other species will dare to follow your example. Chancellor. Vorthak opened his eyes and looked around at his advisors. Some still urged him to fight. Others had already accepted the inevitable. The old order was ending. The question was whether it would end with surrender or destruction. If I surrender, he said slowly, what happens to me personally? You will be tried for war crimes, General Harrison said without hesitation. The species you conquered have the right to justice, and if I am found guilty, that will be up to the galactic court we intend to establish. Representatives from all free species will participate in the trial. I could be executed, you could be. That is the price of the choices you have made. Vorthak nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come eventually. Every tyrant in history had faced the same choice in the end, die fighting or face justice. And my people? The ordinary citizens of the Zephyrian Empire? They will be free to build a new government based on peace instead of conquest, Director Walsh assured him. We have no quarrel with your people, only with your government's actions. Very well, Chancellor Vorthak said finally, I surrender. The words echoed through the communication chamber like a thunderclap. Admiral Kethmer felt something inside his chest loosen for the first time in weeks. His empire was finished, but his people would survive. I formally surrender the Zephyrian Empire to human authority, Vorthak continued. I order all military forces to stand down immediately. I accept responsibility for the crimes committed by our government. I submit to galactic justice. General. Harrison nodded gravely. Your surrender is accepted, Chancellor. Military operations against Zephyrian forces will cease immediately. Your people will be treated fairly and with dignity. Across the galaxy, the news spread at the speed of light. On every world, human commanders received the same message. The war was over. The Zephyrian Empire had surrendered unconditionally. On the liberated worlds, alien populations celebrated in the streets. After decades of oppression, they were finally free. On Zephyrian worlds, the population reacted with shock and confusion. Their mighty empire had fallen without firing a shot. In the communication chamber on Earth, Admiral Kethmer watched as history changed forever. The age of galactic conquest was over. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin. What happens now? He asked. Now we build something better, General Harrison replied. A galaxy where species work together instead of fighting each other, a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. And if someone tries to build another empire, then they will face the same choice your Chancellor just faced, Director Walsh said. Surrender or face the united opposition of every free species in the galaxy. Admiral Kethmer looked out through the chamber's windows at the Earth below. A world that had nearly destroyed itself through war, but had learned to channel its violent nature toward protection instead of conquest. Will it work? He asked. Can species really live together in peace? Dr. Kim smiled. We are about to find out, Admiral. For the first time in galactic history, we are about to find out. The transmission to Zephyr Prime ended, leaving the chamber in peaceful silence. Outside, human ships began standing down from combat alert. The greatest military operation in galactic history was over. The future was just beginning. In systems. Across the galaxy, former enemies began the long process of building something unprecedented, a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. It would not be easy, it would not be perfect. But for the first time in millennia, it would be free. And watching over it all, ready to defend that freedom against any threat, stood humanity. The species that had turned the art of war into the science of peace. The 12 hours passed like a lifetime. Admiral Kethmer sat in his quarters on Earth, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. On every Zephyrian world, the same scene was playing out. Human fleets had arrived and were waiting in orbit. Not attacking, not bombarding. Just waiting. The humans had positioned their forces with surgical precision. Every important Zephyrian world had human ships overhead. Every military base was surrounded. Every fleet was outnumbered 10-1. It was the most perfectly executed military operation in galactic history. General Harrison entered the quarters without knocking. His face was grim. It is time, Admiral. The 12 hours are up. Kethmer followed the general to the communications chamber. The same technicians were at their stations, maintaining the quantum link to Zephyr Prime. The holographic display showed the Imperial Palace, where Chancellor Vorthak sat on his throne surrounded by his advisors. The Chancellor looked like he had not slept. His usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were red with exhaustion. The proud leader of the greatest empire in the galaxy now looked like a broken old man. Chancellor, General Harrison said as the connection stabilized, your time is up. What is your decision? Vorthak stared at the human general for a long moment. Behind him, his advisors whispered urgently among themselves. Some urged him to fight. Others begged him to surrender. The Chancellor ignored them all. Before I answer, Vorthak said slowly, I want to understand something. You claim to fight for freedom. You claim to protect the weak. But you have built the most powerful military force in galactic history. How do I know you will not become what we became? General Harrison considered the question carefully before answering. Because we have been what you became, Chancellor. In our history, humans have built empires through conquest. We have oppressed the weak and enslaved the different. We know where that path leads. Director Walsh stepped into view. We fought wars that consumed our entire world, Chancellor. Wars that nearly destroyed our species. We learned that true strength comes not from conquering others, but from protecting them. Pretty words, Vorthak replied bitterly. But words are easy, actions are harder. What happens when your empire grows strong? What happens when other species begin to seem weak and primitive to you? Dr. Kim joined the conversation. We have already answered that question, Chancellor. We encountered 17 species that you had conquered, all of them weaker than us, all of them helpless against our military might. Do you know what we did? What? We freed them. Every single one. We could have ruled them ourselves. We could have taken their worlds and resources. Instead, we gave them back their freedom. The display changed to show images from the liberated worlds, alien populations celebrating in the streets, former slaves destroying the symbols of Zephyrian rule, ships carrying Zephyrian occupying forces away from worlds they would never see again. This is happening right now on every world your empire conquered, Director Walsh explained. Human forces are overseeing the withdrawal of Zephyrian troops and the restoration of local governments. Chancellor Vorthak watched the images with growing amazement. You are giving up control of 17 star systems? We never wanted control, General Harrison said. We wanted freedom. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. But those worlds could make you rich. Their resources could fuel your expansion. We have our own resources, Chancellor. We do not need to steal from others. Admiral Kethmer spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. Chancellor, they showed me their manufacturing capabilities. They can build more ships in a month than we can in a year. They do not need to conquer worlds for resources. They can create everything they need. How is that possible? Dr. Kim activated another display. Automation, Chancellor. Artificial intelligence. Technology that allows machines to do the work that requires slaves in your empire. We do not need to oppress others because we have freed ourselves from the need for manual labor. The images showed vast automated factories in space. Machines, building ships, weapons, and habitats without any organic supervision. Robot miners extracting resources from asteroids. Artificial intelligences managing complex systems that would require thousands of workers in the Zephyrian Empire. We learned to make machines serve us instead of making other species serve us, Director Walsh explained. It is more efficient and more moral. Chancellor Vorthak stared at the displays in wonder. Your entire civilization is automated? The labor is automated, General Harrison corrected. The decisions are still made by humans. We learned the difference between using tools and becoming slaves to power. And you would share this technology with us? If you choose peace, yes. We will help you convert your empire from one based on conquest to one based on cooperation. The Chancellor was quiet for several minutes, processing everything he had seen and heard. Finally, he looked directly at Admiral Kethmer. Kethmer, you have seen their military strength firsthand. In your professional opinion, what would happen? If we chose to fight? Admiral Kethmer met his Chancellor's gaze steadily. We would lose, Chancellor, completely and utterly. They have more ships, better weapons, superior tactics, and 50 years of preparation. Our entire fleet would be destroyed within weeks. Weeks? If we were lucky, more likely days. Vorthak turned back to the humans. And if I surrender? If I accept your terms? What guarantee do I have that you will not change your minds later? The same guarantee that any species has, General Harrison replied. The knowledge that we are watching? Chancellor, the galaxy has changed forever. No species will ever again be able to build an empire through conquest. We will not allow it. You would police the entire galaxy? We would protect the entire galaxy. Director Walsh corrected. Any species that chooses peace will be left alone to develop as they wish. Any species that chooses conquest will face the same choice you face now. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound and watched Earth grow smaller in the viewing screen. The blue marble that held all of human history was now just a dot against the black of space. She felt a mix of pride and Fear as she looked at the massive ship around her. The Prometheus Unbound was the biggest thing humans had ever built. It stretched 15 kilometers from nose to tail. That was longer than most cities were wide. The ship carried enough weapons to destroy a planet and enough armor to survive almost anything the universe could throw at it. But that was not why. They built it to talk. For over 100 years, humans had been sending messages into space. Radio signals, laser beams, even simple math problems written in light. They sent music and poetry and pictures of children playing. They sent everything they could think of to say hello to anyone who might be listening. But no one ever answered. Back, the silence hurt more than any weapon could. Were humans alone in the universe? Were they too small and weak for anyone to notice? Or were they just not worth talking to? So humanity decided to build something that could not be ignored. The Prometheus Unbound was their letter to the stars written in metal and fire. It said that humans were here, they were strong, and they wanted to meet their neighbors. Elena walked along the bridge and looked at her crew. They were the best humans could offer, scientists who understood the deepest secrets of physics, diplomats who could make peace between enemies, soldiers who would die to protect innocent people, and engineers who could fix anything that broke in the dark between stars. "Status report," Elena said to her first officer. Commander James Park looked up from his station. "All systems green, Captain. We are on course for the edge of human space." "Estimated arrival in 72 hours, Elena nodded. The edge of human space was not very far compared to the size of the galaxy. Humans had only managed to build colonies around a few dozen nearby stars. It was a tiny bubble of life in an ocean of emptiness, but it was home. "Any response to our broadcasts?" Elena asked. "Nothing yet, Captain," said Lieutenant Sarachun, from the communication station. "But we are still sending on all frequencies. Music, mathematics, and basic greetings in every language we know." Elena smiled a little. Sarah was young but brilliant. She spoke 7 human languages and had created 3 new ones just for talking to aliens. Her station was playing soft classical music by batch. The notes drifted through the bridge like a gentle reminder of everything beautiful that humans had made. "Keep broadcasting," Elena said. "Someone might be listening." Deep in the ship's computer core, the artificial intelligence known as Athena was doing much more than anyone realized. Athena was not just managing the ship's systems. She was learning. Every conversation, every emotion, every dream that happened on the ship was teaching her what it meant to be human. Athena understood the mathematics of faster-than-light travel and the physics of antimatter weapons. But she was still puzzled by why humans put windows in their spaceships just so they could look at stars. She was confused by why they brought musical instruments on a military vessel. She did not understand why they packed more medical supplies than ammunition. But Athena was starting to learn that these strange choices might be the most important things about humans. The ship moved through space at speeds that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations. Stars that had been just points of light were now real places with real planets. Some of those planets even had human cities on them now. Small ones with just a few thousand people, but they were growing. Elena remembered visiting New Geneva when she was young. It was a farming colony around. A red star that painted everything in shades of orange and gold. The colonists had built their homes to look like the Swiss villages their grandparents had left behind on Earth. They grew crops that had never existed on Earth but tasted like home. That was what humans did. They took the best parts of their old homes and built new ones. They adapted and survived and found ways to be happy even in the strangest places. "Captain," said Ensign Martinez from the sensor station. His voice was tight with excitement. "I'm picking up something unusual." Elena walked over to his station. "What kind of something?" "Energy readings that do not match anything in our database. The pattern is ... complex, almost like a signal, but not quite." Elena felt her heart speed up. After 100 years of silence, even the smallest unusual reading felt like hope. "Can you locate the source?" "Working on it," Martinez said. His fingers moved quickly over his controls. The signal is very faint. It seems to be coming from beyond the edge of our sensor range. Athena, Elena said out loud. The AI could hear everything on the ship, but Elena always felt more comfortable talking to her directly. What do you make of these readings? FHENA's voice came from speakers around the bridge. It was warm and female, carefully designed to put humans at ease. The energy pattern is unlike anything in my database, Captain. However, I detect subtle quantum fluctuations that suggest advanced technology. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Advanced technology meant someone had built it. Someone who was not human. Could it be natural? She asked. The probability is less than 3%, Athena replied. The pattern is too organized too. Purposeful. Something is creating this signal. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. The weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders. For the first time in human history, they might have found proof that they were not alone. Change course, she said. Take us toward that signal. Aye, Captain, said Commander Park. He began entering new coordinates into the navigation system. Elena walked back to the center of the bridge and sat in her command chair. The Prometheus Unbound was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of everything humans hoped to become. They had built it large enough to impress anyone they might meet. They had filled it with their best people and their most beautiful art. They had armed it with enough weapons to fight a war, but equipped it with tools to build a civilization. More than anything, they had built it with hope. Estimated time to signal source? Elena asked. 16 hours at current speed, Park replied. Elena nodded. 16 hours to possibly change everything humans thought they knew about the universe. She wondered what they would find. Aliens who had been waiting to meet them? Ancient ruins left by a dead civilization, or something else entirely? All hands, this is the captain, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. We have detected an unusual energy signature that may indicate non-human technology. We are changing course to investigate. This could be the moment we have all been working toward. Stay alert, stay professional, and remember that we represent all of humanity out here. She closed the communication channel and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, something was waiting for them. Elena just hoped that when they finally met their neighbors, humanity would prove worthy of the meeting. The Prometheus Unbound turned toward the unknown signal and began the approach that would change everything. In her computer core, Athena made millions of calculations per second, preparing for every possible scenario. But even she could not predict what was about to happen. The universe was about to answer back. Hours passed slowly on the bridge. Elena tried to rest but found herself returning to watch the sensor displays. The mysterious signal was getting stronger as they approached, but it remained frustratingly unclear. Whatever was creating it was like nothing humans had ever seen. Captain, Sarah Chun called from her station. I am detecting something strange about our own broadcasts. What do you mean? Elena asked. The classical music we have been transmitting? Something is reflecting it back to us. But the reflection is ... changed somehow, enhanced, as if something is listening and improving on what we send. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Can you show me? Sarah transferred her readings to the main screen. The display showed two wave patterns side by side. One was the batch piece they had been broadcasting. The other was similar but more complex, with additional harmonies woven through the original melody. It is like someone is playing along with our music, Sarah said quietly. Elena stared at the display. For 100 years, humans had been singing into the dark, hoping someone would sing back, and finally, it seemed, someone was. The Prometheus Unbound moved through space toward the mysterious signal like a giant metal arrow shot into the dark. Captain Elena Vasquez had not slept in 18 hours. Every time she tried to rest, her mind raced with possibilities. What would they find? Who was playing music back to them across the void? Captain, you should see this, called Ensign Martinez from the sensor station. His voice carried excitement and fear in equal measure. Elena rushed to his station and looked at the display. Where empty space should have been, the sensors now showed something impossible. A perfect sphere hung in the darkness ahead of them. It was not made of metal or rock or any material that should exist. The sphere looked like someone had taken a piece of space itself and shaped it into a ball. "How big is it?" Elena asked. 3 kilometers across, Martinez replied. "But Captain, that is not the strangest part. Look at this." He adjusted the sensors to show different types of energy. The sphere was not just sitting in space. It was bending space around itself, creating ripples in reality like a stone dropped in still water. The effect was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Athena," Elena said. "Analysis." The ship's artificial intelligence took several seconds to respond. For a computer that could think faster than any human, that was like an hour of deep thought. "Captain, I am unable to classify this object using any known physics," Athena said. Her voice carried a note of uncertainty that Elena had never heard before. "The material appears to be crystallized space-time. This should not be possible according to our understanding of the universe." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. If Athena could not understand it, then they were dealing with technology far beyond anything humans had imagined. "Distance to the object?" Elena asked. 2 hours at current speed, replied Commander Park from the navigation station. Elena made a decision that would change everything. Reduce speed to 1/4. "All departments prepare for first contact protocols. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, people stopped what they were doing and stared at each other. First contact protocols had been written and practiced for decades, but no one had ever expected to use them. The Prometheus Unbound carried linguists, anthropologists, and diplomats. It had gifts prepared for alien visitors and weapons ready to defend against hostile forces. But nothing had prepared them for this moment. Dr. Sarah Shun left her communication station and moved to the xenobiology lab. She was young for such an important position, but she had spent her entire adult life preparing for this day. Her lab contained every piece of equipment humans had invented for studying alien life. It also contained her most precious possession, a small music box that played lullabies her grandmother had sung to her as a child. Sarah believed that if they ever met aliens, the most important thing would not be science or politics. It would be showing them what made humans special. And what made humans special was their ability to find beauty in a universe that often seemed cold and empty. As the Prometheus Unbound approached the sphere, strange things began to happen. The ship's lights flickered in patterns that matched the music they had been broadcasting. The artificial gravity shifted slightly, creating a sensation like dancing. Even the air itself seemed to hum with energy. "Captain," said Lieutenant Torres from the engineering station, "the sphere is affecting our ship's systems, but not in a harmful way. It is like ... it is trying to communicate through our technology." Elena nodded. "Can you establish any kind of communication link?" "I am trying, but this is unlike anything we have protocols for. The sphere seems to be responding to emotions as much as signals." Elena thought about that. Humans had always assumed that first contact would involve mathematics or simple pictures. They had never considered that aliens might be interested in feelings and dreams. On the bridge, the air began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. But the temperature had not changed. Something else was happening. The shimmering formed patterns that looked almost like writing, but in no language anyone recognized. "Athena, are you recording this?" Elena asked. "Yes, Captain. I am also detecting something else. The sphere appears to be scanning our ship, not just the hull and systems, but somehow looking at the people inside. It is reading our thoughts and emotions." Elena felt exposed and vulnerable. The idea that something alien was looking into her mind was frightening. But she also felt something else: hope. If the sphere was interested in their thoughts and feelings, maybe it wanted to understand them rather than hurt them. "All hands, this is the captain," Elena announced over the ship's communication system. "We are about to make first contact with an unknown intelligence. I want everyone to think positive thoughts. Show them the best of what humanity can be. Think about love, hope, beauty, and kindness. Show them why we deserve to join the larger community of space. Throughout the ship, 12,000 people began to focus their minds on everything good about being human. They thought about children, laughing, and couples in love. They remembered beautiful sunsets and perfect pieces of music. They focused on the moment when someone in need received help from a stranger. The sphere responded immediately. It began to glow with soft, warm light. The patterns in the air became more complex and beautiful, like aurora dancing in space. The music that had been echoing through the ship became richer and more harmonious. Dr. Chun watched from her lab. As readings poured across her screens, the sphere was not just scanning them, it was learning from them. Every emotion, every memory, every dream was teaching it something about what humans were like. "Captain," Chun called over the communication system, "I think it is trying to understand our nature. Not just our technology or our biology, but our souls." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. For so long, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had found something that wanted to know them not as a threat or a resource, but as people. "Distance to the sphere?" Elena asked. 1 kilometer and closing, replied Martinez. As they got closer, the sphere began to change. Its perfect surface rippled like liquid mercury. Sections became transparent, revealing complex structures inside that looked like cities made of light. Other sections showed images that looked like memories or dreams projected into space. "Captain," said Athena, "I am detecting massive energy buildups inside the sphere. But the pattern suggests creation rather than destruction. It appears to be building something." Elena gripped her command chair. "Building what?" "Unknown. But the energy signature is unlike anything we have ever seen. The power levels are extraordinary." The Prometheus Unbound came to a stop 100 meters from the sphere. At this distance, they could see details that took their breath away. The sphere was not a simple object. It was a work of art that happened to be made from the fabric of reality itself. Patterns of light danced across its surface like living paintings. Some showed images of stars being born. Others showed glimpses of worlds covered in strange cities. "Captain," whispered Sarah Chun, "look at Section 7 of the sphere's surface." Elena looked at the main screen and gasped. One section of the sphere was showing images of Earth, but not Earth as it was now. The images showed Earth's history, the first humans learning to use fire, the building of the pyramids, the invention of music, the first steps on the moon, the launch of the Prometheus Unbound itself. "It knows about us," Elena said. "It has been watching us." The implications hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. This sphere, this impossible object, had been observing human civilization for who knew how long. It had seen them grow from cave dwellers to space travelers. It had watched them create art and music and literature. It had been waiting for them to become worthy of contact. "Captain," said Commander Park, "I am reading massive energy spikes from deep space, multiple sources. Very distant, but getting stronger." Elena felt her heart stop. "How many sources?" "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, all across the galaxy." Elena stared at the sphere floating outside their ship. It was not alone. Across the galaxy, other watchers were stirring. The sphere was not just making contact with humanity. It was announcing them to something much larger. "Captain," said Athena, "I am detecting organized signals coming from the distant energy sources. They appear to be communications between the various objects. The content is beyond my ability to decode, but the pattern suggests they are discussing us." Elena felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Humanity had been searching for alien life for over 100 years. Now they had found it, and it was far more than they had ever imagined. They were not just meeting one alien intelligence. They were being introduced to a galactic community that had been watching and waiting for them to prove themselves worthy. The sphere began to pulse with gentle light. The music echoing through the ship changed, becoming something that sounded like a greeting mixed with a question. It was asking something, but Elena could not understand what. "Dr. Chun," Elena called. Any ideas on how to respond? Sarah thought for a moment, then smiled. She activated the ship's external speakers and began to play the music box from her lab. The simple lullaby that her grandmother had sung filled the space around the Prometheus Unbound. The sphere's response was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded across its surface in patterns of joy and recognition. The distant energy signatures from across the galaxy began to pulse in harmony with the simple human song. "Captain," whispered Martinez, "I think they like us." Elena smiled through her tears. After 100 years of silence, the universe was finally singing back. And it was singing lullabies. The sphere began to change in ways that made no sense to human science. Its perfect surface rippled and flowed like water, but water that remembered being solid. Sections pulled away from the main body and reshaped themselves into complex structures that looked part machine and part living organism. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound as the impossible transformation continued. The sphere was becoming something else. Something larger and more complex than anything humans had ever imagined. "Captain," said Ensign Martinez from the sensor station, "the object is now 15 kilometers long and growing. It appears to be constructing additional sections from raw space-time." Elena felt her mind struggling to accept what she was seeing. The alien construct was building itself out of nothing, pulling matter and energy from the empty space around it. This was technology that belonged in fairy tales, not in the real universe. "Athena," Elena said. "Analysis." The ship's artificial intelligence took longer than usual to respond. "Captain, I must confess that my analysis capabilities are being stretched beyond their limits. What we are witnessing appears to violate several fundamental laws of physics. However, I detect patterns that suggest the construct is preparing some form of interactive environment." "Interactive environment?" Elena asked. "Yes, Captain. It appears to be creating a space designed for communication and testing." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Testing was not a word she wanted to hear when dealing with aliens, who could reshape reality with their thoughts. The construct finished its transformation and hung in space before them like a living city. Its hull was transparent in places, showing vast chambers filled with soft light. Other sections pulsed with energy patterns that looked almost like breathing. It was beautiful and alien and more than a little frightening. "Captain," said Dr. Sarah Chun from her station, "I am receiving a direct communication signal. Not radio or laser, but something that seems to bypass our equipment entirely. The message is appearing directly in my mind." Elena felt her heart race. "What does it say?" Sarah closed her eyes and concentrated. "It is not words exactly, more like concepts and feelings. But I think it is saying ... welcome, and it wants us to come aboard." Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for her decision. The Prometheus Unbound was the most powerful warship humanity had ever built, but it felt very small next to the alien construct. Still, they had come here to make contact with alien life. Now they had their chance. "Prepare a diplomatic team," Elena said. "Full first contact protocols. Dr. Chun, you will lead the science team. Commander Park, select a security detail. And bring some of our gifts." Elena had decided weeks ago that she would personally lead any first contact mission. It was her responsibility as captain and her privilege as a human being. They had dreamed of this moment for generations. She would not miss it for anything. The shuttle bay of the Prometheus Unbound was filled with nervous energy as the diplomatic team prepared for departure. They carried universal translators that probably would not work, gifts of human art and music, and enough weapons to fight a small war. Most importantly, they carried the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Elena looked at her team as they boarded the shuttle. Dr. Chun carried her portable laboratory and her grandmother's music box. Commander Park had selected Marines who were known for their discipline and calm thinking under pressure. Lieutenant Torres from engineering brought tools that might help them understand alien technology. And everyone carried a small memory chip that contained the complete works of human art, literature, and music, The shuttle left the Prometheus unbound and flew toward the alien construct. As they approached, sections of the construct's hull became transparent, revealing a docking bay that seemed to have been specifically designed for their shuttle. The bay was the right size, with the right atmosphere, as if the aliens had scanned their ship and prepared accordingly. "They have been studying us," Elena said quietly as they landed. The shuttle touched down on a deck that felt solid but looked like crystallized starlight. As the engines shut down, Elena could see through the transparent walls of the docking bay. The interior of the construct stretched away in all directions, filled with chambers and passages that defied easy description. "Atmosphere reads as breathable," reported Torres. "Temperature and pressure are within human normal ranges, but Captain, there is something else. The air itself seems to be alive somehow. I am detecting patterns that suggest intelligence." Elena made the decision that would change everything. "Open the hatch." The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss, and the diplomatic team stepped onto an alien ship for the first time in human history. The deck beneath their feet felt warm and welcoming. The air smelled like flowers and rain and something else that reminded Elena of her childhood home. "Welcome," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It spoke perfect English, but with an accent that belonged to no place on Earth. "We have been waiting for you." The team looked around but saw no one. The docking bay was empty except for their shuttle and some structures that might have been machinery or art or both. "Who are you?" Elena asked the empty air. "We are those who watch and learn and guide when necessary," the voice replied. "You may call us shepherds, though that is not truly what we are. We have observed your species for many of your lifetimes." "Why did you wait so long to make contact?" asked Dr. Chun. "Because you were not ready. Most species, when they develop the power you now possess, use it to destroy rather than create. But you built the greatest weapon your people have ever made, and you use it to send music to the stars." Elena felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. The Prometheus Unbound was indeed humanity's greatest weapon, but they had built it to communicate, not to conquer. "What do you want from us?" Elena asked. "We want to know if you are ready to join the larger community of intelligent life. But first you must be tested." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Elena felt her team tense behind her. No one liked the sound of being tested by aliens with godlike technology. "What kind of test?" Elena asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know the answer. The docking bay around them began to change. The walls became transparent, revealing vast chambers beyond. And in those chambers, Elena could see scenes that made her heart stop. They were holograms, but so real that she could smell the smoke and hear the screams. The first scene showed a human colony under attack by strange alien ships. People were running through streets as buildings exploded around them. The second scene showed a different human world, this one dying as its star went nova. The third showed alien refugees, their ship broken and drifting, sending desperate calls for help. "These are scenarios," the voice explained, "situations that could happen in the galaxy. You must choose how to respond. Your choices will show us what kind of people you truly are." Elena stared at the scenes and felt the weight of the test settling on her shoulders. This was not about technology or military might. This was about the soul of humanity. "We choose all of them," Elena said without hesitation. "All of them?" the voice asked, and Elena thought she heard surprise in it. "Yes, we save the colony. We evacuate the dying world, and we rescue the refugees. That is what humans do. We help people who need help." "But you cannot save everyone," the voice pointed out. "Your ship, powerful as it is, has limits. You must choose." Elena felt her team looking at her, waiting for her decision. She thought about the Prometheus Unbound floating outside. It was a warship, but it was also a factory and a hospital and a mobile city. It could do many things at once because humans had built it to do many things at once. "We split up," Elena said. "The Prometheus Unbound has manufacturing facilities. We build more ships. We train more crews. We do whatever it takes to save everyone." The scenes around them froze, and Elena heard something that sounded like whispered conversations in a language that was not quite sound. The shepherds were discussing her answer. Interesting, the voice said finally. Most species view such scenarios as competitions. They see only the choice between one group or another. You see an engineering problem to be solved. Because that is what it is, Elena replied. People are in danger. We find a way to save them, all of them. The scenes around them changed. Now they showed the human colony, but the attack was different. The alien ships were not trying to destroy the colony. They were trying to capture it. In the second scene, the dying star could be stabilized with the right technology. In the third scene, the alien refugees had valuable information about a threat to the entire galaxy. Now the scenarios are more complex, the voice said. The attackers believe the colony has committed crimes against their people. The dying star can be saved, but only by destroying an uninhabited planet that contains rare minerals. The refugees carry a plague that could kill billions, but their information could save trillions. Elena felt her mind racing. These were the kind of moral puzzles that philosophers had debated for centuries. But here, in an alien ship, her answers would determine the future of humanity. We find a third option, Elena said. We always find a third option. We mediate between the attackers and the colony. We find another source for the rare minerals. We cure the plague and get the information. We do not accept that, good people. Must suffer for the greater good. And if there truly is no third option? The voice pressed. Elena looked at her team and saw her own. Determination reflected in their faces. Dr. Chen was clutching her grandmother's music box. Commander Park had his hand resting on his weapon, but his stance was protective rather than aggressive. Lieutenant Torres was already calculating solutions in his head. Then we keep looking until we find one, Elena said. That is what makes us human. We do not accept that some people matter less than others. We do not accept that suffering is inevitable. We keep fighting and building and hoping until we find a way to save everyone. The alien construct around them began to glow with warm, golden light. The whispered conversations grew louder and more excited. Elena got the impression that they had given the right answer, but she was not sure what the right answer was supposed to be. You have passed the first test, the voice said, and Elena could hear approval in it. You think like builders rather than destroyers. You see problems as challenges to overcome rather than choices to suffer through, but there are more tests ahead. How many more? Asked Dr. Chun. As many as it takes to be certain, the voice replied. The galaxy is full of dangers that you cannot yet imagine. Before you can join the community of worlds, we must know that you will protect rather than exploit, build rather than destroy, hope rather than despair. Elena nodded. She understood now. The test was not about finding the right answers. It was about revealing the true nature of humanity. And so far, humanity was showing exactly the qualities that Elena hoped they would. We are ready for whatever comes next, Elena said. The construct around them began to change again, preparing for the next phase of the test. But Elena felt confident now. Whatever challenges the shepherds presented, humanity would face them. The same way they faced everything else, with hope, determination, and an absolute refusal to give up on anyone who needed help. The universe was testing them, and Elena intended to make sure humanity passed with flying colors. The alien construct began to move through space in ways that hurt to watch. It did not travel like a normal ship. Instead, it seemed to fold space around itself, bringing distant places closer while leaving others farther away. Captain Elena. Vasquez felt her stomach twist as reality bent around them. Where are you taking us? Elena asked the empty air of the construct's bridge. To the place where all stories begin and end, replied the voice of the shepherds. To the heart of the galaxy, where we have watched over the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Through the transparent walls of the construct, Elena could see space changing around them. Stars that had been distant points of light suddenly appeared close enough to touch. Then they would fade away, replaced by new stars in different colors. The Prometheus Unbound followed behind them. Its human crew, no doubt, as confused as Elena felt. Dr. Sarah Chun was scanning everything with her portable equipment, but the readings made no sense. "Captain," she said quietly, "according to my instruments, we just traveled 10,000 light years in the space of a heartbeat, but that should be impossible." "Many things are impossible until you learn how to do them," the shepherd voice said with what sounded like amusement. "Your species will understand in time. For now, simply observe and learn." Commander Park stood near the wall, his hand resting on his weapon out of habit rather than need. "Captain, I do not like being taken somewhere without knowing the destination or purpose." Elena understood his concern, but she also knew they had little choice. The shepherds could have destroyed the Prometheus Unbound without effort if they wanted to harm humans. Instead, they were being given a tour of wonders beyond. "Imagination, we go where they take us," Elena said, "and we learn what they want to teach us." The construct finally stopped moving, and Elena gasped at what she saw outside. They hung in space near the center of the galaxy, where millions of stars created a spiral of light so bright it painted everything in silver and gold. But that was not what took her breath away. Floating among the stars were structures so vast that they made the Prometheus Unbound look like a toy. Some were clearly artificial, built from materials that gleamed like metal but flowed like water. Others seemed to be made from light itself, shaped into towers and domes that existed without any solid foundation. And everywhere, as far as Elena could see, there were ships. Not human ships, but vessels that belonged to dozens of different species. Some were sleek and graceful like dolphins swimming through space. Others were geometric and precise, all angles and purpose. A few looked like they had grown rather than been built, with organic curves and surfaces that pulsed with life. "Welcome to the heart," the shepherd voice said. "This is where we gather the memories of every species that has ever reached for the stars." Elena stared at the incredible sight and felt very small. "How many species are there? In this galaxy alone? Thousands? Across the universe? More than your mathematics have names for. But most never learn to travel between stars. Fewer still learn to do so without destroying themselves or others." The construct moved closer to one of the vast structures, and Elena could see that it was some kind of library or museum. Through its transparent walls, she could see chambers filled with objects and images and displays that told the stories of alien civilizations. "This is where we keep the records," the shepherd voice explained. "Every species that achieves space travel is recorded here. Their art, their science, their dreams, their failures, all of it is preserved so that their stories will never be forgotten." Elena felt a chill as she understood the implications. How many of those species are still alive? The pause before the answer told her everything she needed to know. "Fewer than you might hope, more than you might fear. The transition from a planetary species to a galactic one is ... difficult. Most civilizations destroy themselves before they can join the community of worlds." Dr. Chun looked up from her equipment. "What do you mean, destroy themselves?" "Power corrupts, Dr. Chun. When a species develops the ability to travel between stars, they also develop the ability to destroy planets. The temptation to use that power for conquest rather than exploration is often too strong to resist." Elena thought about the weapon systems on the Prometheus Unbound. The ship could indeed destroy a planet if it wanted to. But humans had built it to carry music and art and hope to the stars instead. "Show us," Elena said. The construct moved to another structure, this one darker and more somber than the first. Inside, Elena could see displays that showed the final moments of dozens of civilizations. Species that had reached